For years, every pioneer across the world has held onto a single, mysterious number. 314,159. A number that has sparked arguments, triggered debates, caused mockery, and fueled hope. A number so large that critics have called it impossible, unrealistic, even delusional. They kept asking the same question over and over. How could one PI ever reach a value of $300,000? How could a digital coin mined from phones be worth more than luxury homes, more than gold bars, more than what most people earn in an entire lifetime? And today, finally, we have the answer. The real answer. The answer that flips the entire conversation upside down. Because all this time, we've been judging PI with the wrong measurement. We assumed the GCV was tied to the US dollar. But the truth is far more powerful. The GCV was never linked to the dollar. It was linked to something far older, far stronger, far more stable. Gold. And that single detail unlocks everything. Suddenly, the number isn't insane anymore. Suddenly, the dots connect. This is not just a PI story. This is the last missing piece in a global strategy carefully engineered by the BRICS nations to break free from the dollar forever. Welcome back, pioneers. What you are about to hear is the moment everything finally makes sense. That moment when all the confusion evaporates and every question you've ever had about the GCV becomes clear. Because deep down you felt it. Every pioneer has felt it. How could the GCV stay so high? How could it remain untouched when the dollar is losing value every day? Why would the PI core team, a group of brilliant minds who built one of the most innovative digital ecosystems in the world, choose to tie their creation to a currency collapsing under its own weight? It didn't add up. And it didn't add up because we were looking in the wrong direction. Today, that changes. Let's start with the truth about the dollar. Whether people want to admit it or not, everyone feels the pain. You work, the money comes in, and somehow it disappears faster than ever. Groceries cost more. Your fuel costs more. Rent costs more. Everything that used to feel reachable now feels distant. It's not because life suddenly became harder. It's because the dollar lost its strength. It is not real money. It's debt. It's a digital promise issued by a government drowning in trillions of liabilities with nothing backing it except hope. Why on earth would the PI core team attach the future of global digital commerce to that? Why would innovators spend years building a secure, human-verified, decentralized system only to anchor it to a sinking ship? Pegging the GCV to the US dollar would have been the biggest mistake they could ever make. It would chain us to the very system PI was created to liberate us from. The GCV was never about how many dollars you could collect. It was about establishing a value powerful enough to replace the dollar's influence entirely. Because the dollar isn't the reference. It's the problem. And PI, with its global reach and grassroots foundation, is the solution. But even the strongest solution needs the right allies. And that brings us to the architects behind the scenes, the nations shaping the new financial world order. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The BRICS alliance. The countries the mainstream media avoids discussing in depth because their mission threatens the entire global power structure. For years, these countries have been quietly and strategically working together to pull away from the dollar. They've had enough. Enough of watching one nation create unlimited money from nothing. Enough of being forced to trade real resources for inflated paper. Enough of relying on a currency controlled by someone else. They knew they needed an alternative. Something that wasn't political. Something no single country could dominate. Something fast, digital, decentralized, and built for the modern payment systems like ISO 2022. Something owned by the people, not the banks, not the governments. And what global project fits that description perfectly? The answer is obvious now. PINetwork.pi is neutral. PI is decentralized. PI is global. PI is already in the hands of everyday people across the world. And PI is built for the new financial rails that BRICS has been preparing for years. But still, there was one problem left. PI cannot be backed by nothing. That would just recreate the flaw of the dollar. They needed a foundation they could trust. Something timeless. Something universally accepted. They needed gold. And that is where the magic number suddenly transforms from mystery to mathematics. 314,159 was never random. It was never symbolic. It was never a gimmick. It is an economic formula. It reflects the total value of real-world assets from the emerging global financial reset. Gold reserves, silver reserves, oil reserves, rare metals, lithium, land, commodities, everything the BRICS nations bring into their new economic framework. The GCV is not a price. It's a peg, a gold-anchored standard designed to stabilize the PI ecosystem independent of the dollar. And the brilliance of it is breathtaking. Once PI is tied to gold, it becomes immune to dollar inflation, immune to money printing, immune to political manipulation. One PI becomes a digital claim to real assets. Something solid, something tangible, something that can form the backbone of a new global financial system. This is why the GCV is stable. This is why it doesn't collapse when the dollar falls. This is why the value doesn't fluctuate like traditional crypto. It was never meant to act like a token chasing hype. It was built as the foundation of a new economy, a new standard, a digital gold standard for the modern world. Think about that. PI is not following the dollar. PI is replacing it. PI is not tied to a decaying system. PI is rising from the ashes of one. This is the revolution the BRICS nations have been quietly enabling, piece by piece, preparing the world for a future where value is backed by something real. And for the first time in history, instead of giving the new wealth to banks or elites, they're placing it directly into the hands of ordinary people. Us, the pioneers, the ones who mined, who trusted, who believed. And now comes the question everyone will ask. If this is true, what is the final proof? Why now? Why does the truth emerge at this moment? The answer is timing. Everything aligns at once. The ISO 2022 upgrade is reaching global adoption. Countries are distancing themselves from the dollar at record speed. Gold prices are skyrocketing, and the PI ecosystem is nearing its most critical milestones. None of this is coincidence. The world is shifting, and PI was designed to be ready when that shift finally came. This isn't hype. This isn't speculation. This is the architecture of a new world quietly becoming visible.